2023, was suspended for violating the NFL substance abuse policy. Addison pleaded no contest to a DUI charge in 2024. He was found asleep in his car on the 105 freeway in LA. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we aim to foster enlightening, sustainable, restorative dialogue, and we welcome unapologetically progressive viewpoints that empower fellow citizens. We are now accepting submissions for KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorials like this one.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley show conversation with James Farr. James said something that caught me off guard. Black Altadena is gone. My community is being murdered. I said murdered.
All you have to do is go to our website homepage at KBLA1580.com and click on the icon that says KBLA Guest Editorials to learn more about our editorial standards and content submission guidelines. As long as the topic aligns with our mission, we are happy to review your submission and consider it for broadcast. We can't make any promises, but we want to amplify progressive perspectives that are community-focused and solution-oriented. So, go to KBLA1580.com right now to download all the information you need about our guest editorials. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Tavis Smiley, glad to have you with us in this hour of our program. I've been looking forward to this hour. My man, Mark Cuban, is here. A conversation for the hour with my fellow Indiana University alum, the billionaire owner of the NBA's Dallas Mavericks. So many things to talk about with Mark Cuban, starting with the Mark Cuban Cost Plus drug company and his battle with Big Pharma. We'll get to that later in this hour. But again, I'm glad to have you on the program. Mark, how are you, sir?
Good, Tav. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited to be here, and go IU.
There you go. Go Hoosiers. Mark, of course, was in the business school. I was in the SPIA school right next door, but not quite the business school, and I haven't had the success that Cuban has had, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, you're doing all right for yourself. I'm not going to let you complain too much.
No, I'm working on it. So let me start with this. I've been watching you, of course, and following you for years, big fan, and it seems to me, and maybe you've always been this way, Mark, but it seems to me that over the last number of years, you've become more political, or certainly more open about your political views. Has that been a journey, or have you always been that way and I just didn't realize it?
No, I was apolitical as you could get.
Yeah.
I literally would make the point to vote for the politician that I thought would do the least. You know, the less they did, the less damage they could do. And then when Donald Trump got in, because I had known him for so long, I actually, when he first came down the escalator, I was like, okay, this is a good thing. It's a non-politician. Somebody who's going to take a different perspective. And, you know, Trump now, I mean, when he heard that I said something nice about him, he called me and we got to talk a lot, actually. We would talk on the phone. And the more I talked to him, the less inspired, let's just say it this way, that I was. Yeah. I just didn't think he was prepared or ready for the job. And that really kind of twisted me into saying, okay, this guy is not who I'd want for president. Obviously, it didn't work out twice, but that's what got me into politics.
Yep. I'm just because I'm curious, why were you, in fact, and it's not an indictment, but why were you apolitical for as long as you were?
I just, I'm an entrepreneur,
Right.
and my attitude was, if I focused on the things I could do well, that's where I'd have the biggest impact. If I grew my companies, I created jobs. If I created jobs, that created opportunities. And, if I developed good relationships with my employees, my stakeholders, whatever it may be, then it kind of, carries it forward and, good things happen. And that's actually what happened, and so I've always been somebody who said, okay, let's focus on what I'm good at. And that was not politics. And I guess a lot of people would say I'm still not good at politics since the candidates I supported didn't win. But and I've also since I've gotten involved, I've limited it to national candidates.
Yeah.
Just presidential candidates. I'll show up at events around Dallas every now and then just to show a hand, but I really try to limit my involvement to the presidential race.
Yep. To your point about growing your businesses and connecting with everyday people, one of the things I've always admired about you, and it actually shocked me years ago when I realized, more than any billionaire that I know, you are the most accessible. There is no owner in professional sports who's ever been as open and accessible as you are to your fans. People have your email. They reach out to you. What was that about? How did you decide, or maybe it's just who you are, but where did that come from, making yourself so accessible to everyday people, as Sly Stone might say?
When I was first getting started with my first company, like I'd gotten fired from a job and I started this technology company, Micro Solutions, and I knew there was a lot I didn't know. So I literally would go to bookstores and just go through the magazine racks and the books, just looking for one idea. My attitude was always just one idea, no matter where it came from, could make the difference of me being successful or not. And then when I bought the Mavs and email became much more prevalent, I started putting my Dallas Mavs email up on the Jumbotron for any fans to email me. And literally, I got great ideas.
Yeah.
And so that started the habit, and I've just stuck with it ever since.
Yep. Let me circle back to Trump one more time and we'll move forward.
Sure.
You mentioned that you've known him for a long time, and I'm thinking of my friend Geraldo Rivera, who Geraldo was just on this program not long ago, and Geraldo had the same experience. I've met Donald Trump. We've hung out a little bit, but I didn't really know him like you and Geraldo did or do. But what do you make of the guy that you've known for so long who has shown up a bit differently? I mean, anybody who's known this guy for a long time, I've heard this story 1,000 times. He's not the guy now that they knew then. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, to this day, I haven't seen him this term, but I went to the White House because of the healthcare stuff, and we sat and talked for a bit. When you sit down and talk to Donald Trump now, 20 years ago, he's just like a guy you'd sit and talk to, right?
Right.
He's somebody that'll just, talk kibitz with you, just talk about any subject. He's very complimentary all the time. He'll build you up, make you feel good. He's really, really good at it. And, and that was all well and good as an acquaintance, right? To run into him, meet him and just talk about whatever. But he never, the more I got to know him as it applied to politics, it became obvious he never really had in-depth knowledge of what I thought was important to being president. Mm-hmm. You couldn't get into an in-depth intellectual conversation with him about anything. And so, I'm not going to say that he changed a lot just because my relationship with him early on wasn't one to get into in-depth conversations. Mm-hmm. It was just various business, engagements or relationships or discussions, but nothing in depth.
Yeah.
But then the more I tried to dig in, the less impressed I was. And, it just is what it is. And, I can throw a lot of shade at him.
Yeah.
But, at this point, we know who he is. Everybody knows who he is.
Speaking of digging in, I want to dig in with Mark Cuban. Glad I have him for the hour. We're going to talk about the Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drug Company later in this hour. But when we come forward, I want to start with this piece that he wrote for Time Magazine. Democrats are too inept to exploit Trump's chaos. That's his piece. We'll unpack it when we come forward. Mark Cuban on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Hey, it's Matt, your leaf filter trusted pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by visiting leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water. And it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty. So you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help. Visit Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate, and you could save up to 30%. Visit leaffilter.com/deal. That's leaffilter.com/deal.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions, like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Mark Cuban, who I'm honored to have on this program for the rest of this hour. So this program, Mark, as you probably know, is nationally syndicated. We're being heard all across the country right now, but I am based in L.A., sitting in my studio here in the Mert Park in Los Angeles right now. Let's just do this right now and get it out of the way. Everybody in the building is telling me or asking me to tell you thank you. Thank you for Luka.
You know what? I knew you were going there, and I had to decide if I was going to hang up. I had nothing to do with that. I had nothing to do with that. And yeah, anyways, yeah, thanks a lot, Tavis.
Yeah, just moving on. Just wanted to say.
Yeah, moving on real
fast.
Like,
yeah,
that's like telling me, we're going to start rooting for Purdue.
Yeah. Oh, hey, you don't do that. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I had a T-shirt on. I love this T-shirt, Mark. I had my T-shirt on the other day. I wear it as often as I can, and the T-shirt says, "My two favorite teams are IU and whoever's playing Purdue."
Exactly.
I was wearing that the other day. All right, let me jump right inside this piece, which I was fascinated to read, and I want you to break it down for the audience, and we've got time here. Again, you can find it for yourself at Time Magazine. Mark Cuban, Democrats are too inept to exploit Trump's chaos. Take it away, Mark Cuban.
Yeah, I mean, look, what Donald Trump does better than any president or candidate before him is sell, right? He's a great salesperson. And what Kamala Harris and her team didn't understand is in this day and age of social media, you have to be able to sell. You have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of a voter and understand their perspective. You can't be dogmatic. You have to talk about things that are directly important to them. And so when Donald Trump talked about, pushing down prices, closing the border, immigration. It didn't matter if he was telling the truth or not. He didn't care if he was telling the truth. We knew he wasn't going to be able to push down prices. We knew tariffs would increase consumer pricing. They weren't going to be paid for by the country that's exporting. But the Democrats, all they wanted to do was deal with whatever their polling said and whatever their political experts said. And that just drove me crazy. I mean, when I was going around campaigning for Kamala, my first thing I said to them is, you can't tell me what to say if you want me out here. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You can agree or disagree, but I'm going to be myself, because I think the only way to reach people is through honesty and integrity and some salesmanship. And the Dems then and now do not know how to sell. Just saying Donald Trump sucks is not a strategic plan to get reelected now in 2026 or to take Congress in 2026. You can't just say Donald Trump sucks. I mean, you can't say he's a threat to democracy. All those things are esoteric. They may be true, but they're esoteric. People want to know what's going to impact them right now, today. They want to know, if you're going to change how they feel when they get to the checkout counter at the grocery store. They want to know how they're going to feel when they see their auto insurance bill, or if they can even get auto insurance. They want to know if you're going to impact the cost of drugs or what it costs to go to the hospital. Those are the things people care about, but you never heard the Democrats talk about them in direct terms. And I think that just hurt them then and hurts them now.
Yep. So Donald Trump is good at selling, but so is one Mark Cuban. So I want to just pause for a second and pass the mic back to you and just ask you to give me and our audience right now listening across the country, give us a mini master class on the secret to being a good seller.
I mean, being a good seller, or a good salesperson means just putting yourself in the shoes of the people you're trying to reach. And selling is never about convincing. It's not like, okay, he can sell ice to Eskimos or whatever cliche you want to use. It's about saying, okay, I want to help you. How can I take my product or service and help you? How can I reduce your stress? How can I make your life better? How can I make it so that, there are things that you weren't able to do yesterday that you'll be able to do tomorrow because we're doing this together. And the same thing applies to a politician. I tried to convince them to let Kamala just go out there and meet with people, because when you talk to her, she's cool, right? She's smart. She's easy to talk to, but everything was so overproduced and scripted. In order to sell, you've got to be natural. That's what Donald Trump does, right? He will talk to anybody like they're his best friend. He'll lie. He won't have any compunction about lying at all. We're going to reduce the price of whatever tomorrow. The day I take office, all wars will end. We'll reduce all prices. No, there was no chance. But that's a whole lot better to people who are concerned about their grocery bills than he's a threat to democracy. He's a Nazi. Whatever the worst feelings you have about him doesn't change what's happening in people's day. And that's, a key problem for the Democrats. The Democrats like to talk in all these esoteric, big intellectual topics. Let's talk about the threat to democracy. Let's talk about what he's doing to the Department of Education. Neither of those things is going to make groceries cheaper. Neither of those things is going to make it easier to find a job. None of those things are going to make it easier to afford continuing your education or getting an apprenticeship, whatever you're looking to do. Those are the things people care about. And when you're a good salesperson, you understand what reduces the stress of the people you're trying to work with, and you address that directly.
What did Kamala do wrong in her selling?
She listened to her political consultants. She wasn't herself. Like, I remember they tried to tell me, you need to say this, you need to say, I'm like, why would you? Like, price gouging. She went around talking about price gouging. And as it stood then as now, there were 37 states that already had price gouging laws. And I'm like, why are we talking about price gouging? Because it only applies when there's some tragedy, right? When there's some, weather tragedy, floods, whatever it may be, and people try to gouge. And they're like, no, we're going to stick with it. you know it doesn't happen often, but people look at this as being analogous to reducing prices. I'm like, no, it's not analogous to reducing prices. You have to literally do something that could reduce pricing and make it less stressful when you go to the grocery store, when you go to the gas station, whatever it may be. And she wanted to talk about price gouging.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to hit people viscerally, not make them think like they would in a social studies class or in a poli-sci class in college. It's just like the Democrats want to pretend that every conversation is, a poli-sci class at their favorite university or community college. It's not. That's not how people live their lives.
Yeah. You used two words earlier in this conversation, Mark Cuban, that I want to come back to. I heard it loud and clear, and I didn't miss it, but I want to come back to because there are two words that struck me in part because, let me just frame this if I can. They struck me in part because when we think of the billionaire class, which you are a part, we do not think of these two words. The two words you used earlier in this conversation were honesty and integrity. And it jumped out at me because, again, those are not words we necessarily or on demand think of. They don't come to mind when we think of the billionaire class in this country. Put another way, when we think of the billionaire class, many people believe that somebody, to get that rich, let me just go right at it.
Sure.
To get that rich, to get that wealthy, most of us, I think, believe that somebody in the process had to be exploited. You can't get that rich without exploiting somebody, poor people, everyday people. Somebody got exploited in the process, workers. I mean, you take my point. But here you come talking about honesty and integrity. There's no real question there, but just take that frame and do something with it.
Sure. I got lucky. I was a millionaire before I became a billionaire from selling my first company. And I invested it wisely and then started another company that made me good money. And then I took a company public during the internet boom. And if I would have started that company 5 years earlier or 5 years later, I probably would not be a billionaire, and I wouldn't be having this conversation with you, Tavis. You wouldn't even know who I am. Never would have bought the Mavs, never would have been on Shark Tank because I wouldn't have been wealthy enough. But I started the first streaming company with my fellow IU grad, Todd Wagner, and in 1995, right when the internet boom was starting, and went public in 1998 and sold in 1999. And that's how I became a billionaire. That was luck. 100% luck. And it doesn't change who I am as a person, doesn't change my background. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my dad did upholstery on cars. So if you had like a rip in the car seat or your convertible top, you took it to him. Lost an eye in an accident where a staple broke. Worked every day, 6 days a week. Got left home at 7. Got home at 6, never made more than $40,000 a year in his life. And that's how I grew up with two younger brothers. I mean, we weren't poor, but we certainly weren't wealthy at all. We were solid, blue collar. And, then I get to IU, I had to pay for my own school. I get down to Dallas. I'm living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, 5 roommates, sleeping on the floor, eating mustard and ketchup sandwiches, gaining 25 pounds because I would take $20 to a bar and eat all the fried mushrooms they would serve me, and buy one beer to get. So I've been there, right? It's not like I had a silver spoon or, born on third base or any of that kind of stuff. And, my friends are still my friends from them. I was just home in Pittsburgh the other night, going to a baseball game with the same guys that I've been friends with since I was 12 years old. They're not all rich or, crazy wealthy. So that's just who I am. And, my attitude was that I wasn't going to let my bank account change me for better or worse.
I talked to Warren Buffett one time, a couple of times actually, and Warren Buffett said to me, which just struck me, Warren Buffett said to me, Tavis, the luckiest thing, the best thing that ever happened to me, he said, is that I was lucky enough to be born in this country.
Yep.
I have no control over that, right? But the best thing that ever happened to me is that I was lucky enough to be born in this country. That's Warren Buffett talking to me years ago. You mentioned the word luck. Again, just talk to me about the role that luck plays in our lives, certainly has played in your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's like basketball, right?
Right.
The game changes over time, and playing the game today, it's a lot more skilled. And so you have to have more to your game. When the Mavs won a championship in 2011, there was always one guy on the court who was the defender who could not shoot. And that's who Dirk guarded all the time. And that really helped us out. The game changes. Football, the game changes. Everything evolves. And timing, equates to luck. And, Warren's right. And I would go to Dairy Queen with Warren. He's great. I love him. And, Joe Biden, actually, I went to the White House, and this is one thing, that I think Donald Trump is missing dramatically here. I went to the White House with Shark Tank, and they had an entrepreneurial event that Joe Biden ran when Obama was president. And this was 2015, I think, 2016. And Joe Biden sat and he said, Mark, I've traveled around the world. And he said, the one thing that makes this country different than every other one is we are a country of entrepreneurs. The American dream is alive and well, and that's why so many people from around the world want to come here and start their business because they want the American dream. Nobody leaves to go to Canada for the Canadian dream or the French dream or the German dream, right? We are a country of entrepreneurs and people. That's why I did Shark Tank, because I wanted people to see that anybody could walk on that carpet. Didn't matter where you were from, what you looked like, what you sounded like. As long as you would put your life on the line to start a business, you had a chance to get a deal and turn into a millionaire, in a nanosecond. And I think that makes our country different, because even though it can be harder for a lot of people, the circumstances definitely matter. Getting access to capital is definitely harder for some people. That path is still there. It hasn't been closed before you start it. And I think one of the things that Joe Biden misses, that Donald Trump misses, he's talking about, well, Apple's going to spend $600 billion. This company's going to spend $200 billion. This company, whatever. He never talks about entrepreneurs. He never talks about the impact of tariffs on startups. There are and I used to say this when I was on the road for Kama, there are 33 million companies in this country. 30 million of them are solopreneurs, right? Independent businesses that are run by one or two people, 30 million out of 33 million. And those people are getting devastated by the tariffs. There's only 20,000 companies that have 500 or more employees. None of those companies are going to be able to, none of the rest of the companies are going to be able to spend much of anything to move their molds from China to Vietnam, to the US, whatever it is. And they're getting stuck. And I couldn't think of one time, maybe you've heard him, Tavis, I can't think of one time Donald Trump has talked about entrepreneurs, startups, small businesses, and making it easy for, or better for us, particularly with all these tariffs. And it's just crushing my Shark Tank companies.
It's a powerful and poignant observation brought to us by Mark Cuban. He mentioned Shark Tank. When we come forward, I've got a question about Shark Tank. Mark was on that program for 15 seasons, as I recall. And I got a question about that. And, of course, we're pushing our way toward a conversation with Mark Cuban about the Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drug Company. Glad I've got him for the hour. You're listening to Mark Cuban on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The FBI will help track down Texas Democrats who fled the state to block a GOP redistricting vote. Senator John Cornyn requested the aid, and Governor Abbott ordered civil arrests.
We cannot allow these rogue legislators to avoid their constitutional responsibilities and make a mockery out of Texas.
But since the lawmakers are out of state, enforcement remains limited. Former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms shares her mental health journey on the Baller Alert show, revealing how therapy helped her connect childhood trauma to adult patterns. She urges women to choose power over pressure and prioritize healing over pushing through. And Birmingham, Alabama's historic Prince Hall Masonic Temple is being restored. Once a vital Black-owned business and social hub in the Civil Rights District, the 8-story landmark is getting new life, according to the National Park Service. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Both of LA's baseball teams lost at home last night. St. Louis beat the Dodgers 5-3. Impressive night for Shohei Ohtani in the loss. He had 8 strikeouts in 4 innings on the mound and hit his 39th homer. The home run was his 1,000th hit in his 8-year career. The Angels lost to Tampa Bay 5-4. The Angels struck out 16 times and did not score after the 4th inning. The LA Sparks are back in action tonight in the WNBA. They're at home against the Connecticut Sun. The Sparks are going for their 3rd straight win. The NFL suspended former USC wide receiver Jordan Addison for the first 3 games of the regular season. Addison, a first-round pick of the Minnesota Vikings in 2023, was suspended for violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. Addison pleaded no contest to a DUI charge in 2024. He was found asleep in his car on the 105 freeway in LA. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717. You
hear that? That's Mike sleeping soundly on a Sunday night. That's because Mike was smart this time. He took ZQL Ultra to fall asleep fast, stay asleep longer, and get the deeply restorative sleep he needs. So now he wakes up refreshed and ready to conquer Mondays.
Let's do this Monday.
ZQL Ultra. Not for colds, just for sleep. Really great sleep. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Some things can steal your sunshine.
Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Mark Cuban. Honored to have Mark Cuban on this program, and it's been a spirited conversation thus far, and I look forward to the rest of this hour. Mark Cuban spent 15 seasons on Shark Tank. Take a listen.
Wait. Oh. Honestly, I thought somebody was going to make you an offer. when I said, okay, this isn't my wheelhouse and everything. So I'm going to make you an offer, all right? I'm going to offer you the $400,000. I want 20%, but there's also 2 other contingencies. I have a daughter who's 14, and I have a daughter who's 17. Alyssa and Alexis. And I want them to meet you, and I want them to learn from you, and maybe you'll even learn some from them. So those are my 2 contingencies, and that's my offer.
My counter is $400,000 for 15%.
Oh, Mark, you met your match.
All right, I'm a sucker.
So Donald Trump had The Apprentice. Mark Cuban was on Shark Tank for 15 seasons. Why, Mark, do you think that show has succeeded so wildly?
Because it says the American dream is alive and well. And, like you saw there with those guys, those women, they didn't come from a special background. They just put in the work and got to a point where, they could grow their business, and they actually ended up selling their business.
Wow. When you see that kind of success, that in part because of your investment, this thing gets off the ground, it does so well, they end up being able to sell it. That does what for you internally, emotionally?
Oh, I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel great. I've had some big wins from Shark Tank companies. You've probably heard of Dude Wipes.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Beatbox Beverages, kids at colleges just drink it up for better or worse. I've had so many big wins and these aren't people who are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They don't get deals on Shark Tank. They come in and they grow these companies from, 2 friends, 2 acquaintances, 2 people that went to school together or worked together, and turn it into something special. And when that happens, I feel incredible. It tells me that, it's working, and that I've been able to pay it forward and, just help some people reach their American dream. And there aren't many better feelings.
Yeah. I want to pivot now because I'm just watching my time here to the Mark Cuban cost plus drug plan. For starters, tell me why or how this became important to you. You run in so many different lanes. Why and how did this lane even appeal to you in the first place?
I'm blessed in my life. Like we were talking about, I've been extremely lucky. And I literally, you talk about my email being available.
Yeah.
I got a cold email from a Dr. Alex Oshmayansky, and he was like, I want to start this compounding.
Hey, Mark, I'm glad you said that last name.
Yeah, because it's hard. I get it wrong all the time. Yeah, and so Dr. Alex emails me and says, I want to start this compounding pharmacy where we make pharmaceuticals that are in short supply. Believe it or not, in this day and age in the United States of America, there are pediatric cancer drugs for kids that go in short supply, and so many others, Pitocin, all these things that should be commonplace. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that, but let's think bigger. When we think about the cost of medications in this country, no one says, oh yeah, it's cheap, it's a great deal. Everybody's terrified of the whole healthcare industry and what it costs. And so, like I said, I'm blessed. When he came to me, I'm like, all right, let's try to do something that impacts as many people as possible. What if we really created a company that was completely transparent so that we would show people our cost, what our markup is, our profit margins, and shipping and any other fees, but we'd be completely transparent. And how would our prices compare to what's out there already? So we started putting together, we got the URL costplusdrugs.com and started putting together this company. So if you go to costplusdrugs.com and put in the name of the medication that you're taking, we don't carry them all. We've got 7,200. We're working to get everything we don't carry. But if we carry it, it'll come up. And you'll see our actual cost, what we pay for it. You'll see that we only mark it up 15%. We're primarily mail order, but we do have ways that you could pick it up at a local pharmacy. But because we're primarily mail order, it's $5 for shipping and $5 for a pharmacist to review it. And when you put those pieces together, we're dramatically cheaper than everybody else. And, we have cancer drugs like imatinib, multiple sclerosis drugs that if you just walked into a pharmacy and tried to pay cash for it, might cost you $200 or $2,000, and our price might be $21 or $25, depending on what it is. And so just by being able to be transparent and have such a low markup, often we're cheaper for people than their insurance copays, their insurance coinsurance, their deductibles. I mean, even Medicare Advantage, we're probably, if you have if you're in a specialty tier, we're probably cheaper than what you're paying out of pocket right now in coinsurance. Same with Medicare Part D. So we're literally out there saving lives because we're able to make these medications so affordable.
That website is costplusdrugs.com. For those listening right now who I know are trying to figure out where it is, it's costplusdrugs.com. That's the website.
Say it loud and say it often.
I'll say it again. Did I say costplusdrugs.com? I think I said costplusdrugs.com. Yeah, that's what I thought I said.
Now that's selling, Tavis. That is selling.
Man, yeah, I'm learning from you, brother. I'm learning from you. I'm glad you're in this space at costplusdrugs.com, but the fact that you are in this space, Mark, is a damning indictment on the richest nation in the history of the world. Yep. That you have to be in that space. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, like I said, I'm blessed. My next dollar isn't going to change my life or my kid's life. And so I wanted to be able to start something that really made a difference for millions of people. And we've helped millions of people already. Yeah. And so the fact that there was this opportunity for us to start this, like to your point, is insane. Yeah. And what has happened is, even though there's huge companies, $100 billion companies that do similar to what we do, we're still the only company that publishes our price list and makes all of our costs completely transparent. And we've been in business 3.5 years, and we're still the only one. And that, to your point again, Tavis, just proves the point that so much in healthcare is about being opaque and making it difficult to understand. Healthcare should be easy. You go to the doctor, and if unfortunately you need care or medication, there really should only be two questions. One, how much does it cost? And two, how do you pay for it? Yeah. And we should be doing everything we can to keep those costs low and make it as easy and affordable as possible. But unfortunately, the exact opposite has happened. Yeah. There's all these middlemen called pharmacy benefit managers that want to get paid. There's the hospitals that want to get paid. There's the insurance companies that want to get paid or keep your money. And the list goes on. And everybody who comes into the market thinks, okay, this is a $5 trillion business. If I only get 1/10 of 1%, I'm doing well and I'm making money. And so that just makes it more convoluted, confusing, difficult, and opaque. Mark, and so, we just said we're going to be transparent so that people can trust us.
Mark Cuban knows this. Tavis Smiley knows this, and I suspect you know this as well. Got a really bright audience across the country. The thing that bankrupts, if I can say it, the thing that bankrupts most Americans, healthcare costs. That is the thing that drives most Americans into bankruptcy, the cost of healthcare in this country. And I love that Cost Plus Drugs is online now. When we come forward, I want to ask, this opens the door to something else I want to ask Mark about, so I'm glad he teed this up for me. I think there are any number of threats to our democracy, or as I call it, an experiment in democracy. I always say we have a Madisonian framework for it. We've not quite yet achieved democracy, and in this moment, I'm not so sure we'll ever achieve multiracial democracy, but that's another conversation for another day. One of the threats to this democracy, to my mind, is poverty. And the reason why Mark is doing this is because people can't afford these drugs otherwise. I'm curious as to his take on how close we are to the edge as a democracy when it comes to poverty and income inequality and economic immobility. I want to tap into his expertise or thoughts about that, number one. And by my count now, Mark Cuban has used the word blessed 4 times in this conversation. I am blessed, I am blessed, I am blessed, I am blessed. Is there a faith dimension to the life of Mark Cuban? If so, I want to hear about it. You're listening to Mark Cuban on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams. My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has worksource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Say bless, say bless. Yeah!
That's my man Fred Hammond with his hit song, Blessed in the City. Speaking of Blessed in the City, Fred Hammond makes his home in Dallas, like Mark Cuban. And in this conversation, as I said a moment ago, I've heard Mark Cuban, by my count, 4 times use the word blessed. I said earlier in this conversation, he used other words I don't often hear billionaires use, words like honesty and integrity. I assume that a guy of your stature, Mark Cuban, and your intellect chooses his words very carefully. Why the word blessed 4 times in this conversation?
I mean, just because I am. You know, I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm super religious. I'm not. I'm Jewish. You know, I love my faith. I love what it means. I love having grown up Jewish. It's important to me, but I'm not going to synagogue every week, you know. But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate everything in this life. I mean, I just never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine that I'd be in this position.
Yeah.
Growing up in Pittsburgh, no chance.
Yeah.
I mean, even my parents would have, you know, were just shocked, You know, my mom literally got me a job one time being an apprentice laying carpet. And there's an office building in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on Washington Boulevard that if you walk into that office, you're tripping every 2 feet. So, you know, I'm not dumb,
Yeah,
man.
I love
I
it.
know when I got it good, and I'm
I
happy to
love
admit
it.
it.
I love it. The flip side, obviously, to billionaire status in this country, we'd all love to achieve, but the flip side to that is poverty, income inequality, and economic immobility. My read in this moment, Mark, is that all three of those things are threats to this very democracy. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, we're only as strong as our weakest link
Yep.
in this country, and I'm a big believer of that. I'm not a big believer in trickle down economics like, you know, most wealthy people are. I am a big believer in trickle up economics. And what that means to me is that, you know, in any business, you get what you incentivize. And it's the same in business and taxation. And so right now, you know, I'm not opposed to cutting taxes, but if we're going to cut your taxes for a company, I want you to commit to certain things that lifts up your least paid employees. You know, to me, it's a crime that maybe crime's too strong a word, but to me, it's a problem that there are companies who have employees that are working full time and have to be on Medicaid to get health care, that need governmental services just in order to get through the month. That's just wrong. You know, when I owned the Mavs, I read an article about, you know, certain companies that had all these people that were, you know, on governmental services. And I was like, oh my goodness, I hope the people who work in our arena aren't in that situation. So I called our guys and I'm like, you know, this was 7, 8 years ago. I'm like, whatever we were paying, we're jacking it up to $15 an hour for everybody. I don't care what it cost me. And that's exactly what we did, because to me, it would have been embarrassing if anybody who worked for me needed to be on Medicaid because their income was so low. And so when we talk about incentives for businesses and poverty, I think we need to, you know, incent companies to make sure that they're paying enough that, you know, their employees are not going to be on government programs, which in turn will save us tax money, but will also make people, you know, put people in better positioning with healthcare, et cetera. Number two, you talk about income inequality. The only way to diminish income inequality is by people who having access to appreciable assets. You know, and because that's the only way you can increase your net worth. And if you're just working paycheck to paycheck and getting paid by the hour, or, you know, getting paid a barely get by salary, you can't save money. There's no way to increase your net worth. But I would incent companies to say, every single employee in that company, if you want a lower tax rate, you are giving them equity and options, warrants, whatever it may be, at the same percentage of earnings as the CEO. So if your CEO makes $1 million and gets 10% in stock options, then the person making, you know, $15 an hour is getting the same thing. And, you know, that way you can get appreciable assets. That way someone can start saving money and hopefully at some point sell that stock to buy a home if that's what's important to them. You know, we need to do those things to increase, you know, because I can tell you with my personal experiences, when I sold the Mavs, the majority interest in the Mavs, I paid out $40 million in bonuses to all the employees, not the players. Wasn't allowed to do that, but everybody who worked back office, people who worked, you know, as ushers, whatever it may be, $40 million in bonuses, because I wouldn't have accomplished what I accomplished without them. When I sold broadcast.com, you know, out of 330 employees, 300 became millionaires. When I sold Micro Solutions, you know, we paid out, I netted 2 million and our employees netted 1 million. And so, you know, other companies, the same thing.
I love it.
So, you know, by building up the people who work for you and incenting companies to reward them, that's how you start doing it. I think where people go wrong on the progressive side, and people will say, I'm just selling my own book here, but, you know, the whole tax billionaires and just raise taxes, I have no problem paying more in taxes, right? But there's a point of diminishing returns. You could take all the wealth from all the people and give it to the people who need it the most, and within 2 or 3 years, that money would be gone and we'd be right back where we started.
I want to ask one final quick question about the CEO, the exponential growth of CEO pay in our remaining moments with Mark Cuban on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found BenefitsCheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Mark Cuban. I got a tight 2 minutes here. Mark Cuban is doing good and well at the same time with Cost Plus Drugs. Once again, the website is costplusdrugs.com, costplusdrugs.com. In the 90 seconds I have left, Mark Cuban, all yours. What about the exponential growth of CEO pay in this country, but not so much for workers?
Look, going back to what I said before, most of that income for CEO pay that just seems outrageous is from stock prices. I don't have a problem of a CEO making a ton of money as long as when that stock price goes up, all his employees also own stock, right, and they're getting rich too. As long as you got both, great. If you don't, if it's only going to the CEO, zap them with a capital gains windfall profits tax.
15 seasons on Shark Tank, and majority owner for so long of the Dallas Mavericks, now minority owner, but doing some great work again with drug prices in this country. I repeat once again, it's costplusdrugs.com for more information about that. Mark Cuban, I knew we'd have a great time, man. It's been greater than I even thought. Thank you for your time, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Tavis. Have a good one.
All the best to you. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Tomorrow is Friday, so tomorrow is the best of Tavis. Probably going to be tough figuring out 3 hours from this week of amazing conversations to reprise tomorrow. But until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The FBI will help track down Texas Democrats who fled the state to block a GOP redistricting vote. Senator John Cornyn requested the aid, and Governor Abbott ordered civil arrests.
We cannot allow these rogue legislators to avoid their constitutional responsibilities and make a mockery out of Texas.
But since the lawmakers are out of state, enforcement remains.